Hey folks, welcome. Give it a few more minutes to let folks roll in, and then we'll get started. As you can see, we have got the holiday theme going on here with all the hats and festive music.
Licensing reimagined.
Just get a few more moments. Welcome back to our regulars. Good to see some new faces here too as well. Fantastic. I hope everyone is, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere, is keeping warm. It is rather chilly over in the UK. And avoiding the rain. We were just talking about off camera as well. Right, I'll make that a minute past. Shall we get started, everyone? So welcome to Beyond the Booth, KubeCon Insights, and we're also going to dive into our platform as a product report as well. Let me just give you a quick overview of the structure of the day. We are going to do a little bit of housekeeping. So Q&A, more than welcome. I might not take questions live, so to speak, as we're going through. We'll save questions till the end, but keep them coming all the time. And when we're doing a little wrap up, we can look at any Q&A, any questions you've asked. So questions, comments, thoughts, chuck it into wherever the channel you're watching is, YouTube, LinkedIn. We'll do our best to have a look and summarize all those at the end. So please do keep them coming. We're looking to probably chat about 20, 30 minutes and then 10 minutes for questions in an ideal world. I'm going to do introductions for everyone. Big trends we saw at KubeCon. I'll kick that off. Kat will then go into platform as a product, giving us a sort of sneak peek of our report and some of the things we saw at the conference related to that. And then Abby will be doing a behind the booth, or it should have been behind the keynote stage, Abby, because Abby did an awesome keynote at KubeCon as well. So Abby's going to go into more of the technical stuff behind the scenes for the final chapter, and then we'll do a conclusion and Q&A. So let's do introductions. Abby, do you want to do introductions for yourself?
Sure, I can kick off. So I'm Abby. I am an engineer at Syntasso and am wearing my purple hat. I am a CNCF ambassador and team topologies advocate, which I think sums up that I just love the socio-technical side of creating solutions to problems. And so I'm involved with a whole bunch of meetups and communities, and I'm also one of the co-chairs of the current North American and European KubeCons, and so some of that plays into some of the things I'm going to talk about as well. So
awesome stuff. Thanks a lot. Kat, over to you.
Hi, I'm going to do a much shorter introduction than Abby because I'm not quite as locked into the community, but I'm staff product manager here at Syntasso. I've been working here for a few years now, mainly around our product and what it looks like, but also dealing a lot with the community that we work with because we're an open source project, and helping build something that people really want to use for building out their platforms.
Thank you very much, Kat. My name is Daniel Bryant, so I run product marketing here. Career in software engineering, architecture and platform building, hence I often look at the big picture stuff. Like Kat, I think I've been here for a couple of years now, really enjoying working with the whole team at Syntasso. We're really focusing on Cratix, Syntasso Cratix Enterprise, platform as a product. So if you're in that space and stuck, give us a shout. We'd love to chat to you afterwards. So with introductions done, we saw, and we learned at KubeCon. We just got back from Atlanta. All three of us were over there, a few more of the team as well. We ran a booth at PlatEng Day, one of the co-located days, where it's just dedicated on platform engineering. Always enjoy those days. Fantastic talks, fantastic conversations at the booth as well. So we're going to draw on some of that stuff. We ran a booth at KubeCon, the main event as well, as one of our competition winners, one of our prize winners. Learned a ton at KubeCon. A different kind of vibe, a bit more obviously Kubernetes focus, a bit more sort of IC level focus, perhaps individual contributors, but lots of great fun there. Abby's keynote was awesome. Shout out to Abby, loving it. I did a panel talk as well, and Kat rocked the stage with Derek on an amazing talk as well. So we got feedback from our talks, from our keynotes at the end, learned a bunch from folks like yourself at home. It's always good to meet people where they're at. KubeCon is just one sort of big get together of lots of very interesting people doing lots of very interesting in this space, very interesting stuff in this space. And of course, we did sponsor a party as well. The New Stack, Adira, Tailscale, and Minimus with us did an amazing party at the aquarium in Atlanta, and that was kind of surreal, seeing whales and stuff swimming around in the background. Amazing food, amazing music, but we had a lot of great conversations there too. And you can see Derek spread across us. That was the beginning of the night as well. But lots of fun, lots of fun. We also launched our new O'Reilly report. Kat's going to go into this in more detail, but we had lots of great conversations on the booth in relation to this. So if you haven't got a copy of this, you can scan the code. We'll drop a few hints in throughout the presentation today. Scan that code. You can get a free copy online. Just pop your email address in. You can get a PDF copy. And if you're at an event or in London, just hit us up. We actually got some physical copies. I haven't got one to hand, but we've got some physical copies we can get you here, and we can even sign them if you want as well. So I'll kick things off with the big trends I saw at KubeCon in Atlanta. And this is also Eng Day and a few other colos as well. These were my 3 big takeaways from the event. First off, that Kubernetes and AI is now real. I think up until this point, we saw a lot of concepts, a lot of hype, dare I say it, just in the industry in general and even at other KubeCons. It was great content, interesting content, but we saw real production use cases. I think JE at Intellex did a really good job of summarizing some of these kind of developments in the space. And one conclusion he had is that this rapid adoption of AI, this all in on AI, is really pushing the boundaries of folks' current platforms. So his team's pitch was that AI is actually driving platform engineering to the next level, people's adoption of platform engineering, which I thought was an interesting take in that, AI might have stolen some of the budgets, but it's also pushing the development of platform engineering within companies. And interestingly, Forrester, another big analyst company, said kind of the same thing. They were like, platform engineering, really, really valuable. Invest in developer experience, invest in systems, invest in speed, safety, scalability, efficiency, all these good things. And they were saying if you're using AI to do that, that's a great sort of motivation to push it through the organization. Both Intellex, Forrester, I think also Gartner and a few others really shouted out Intuit. So Intuit were really kind of like sort of pushing the maturity. The ecosystem, in general, was drifting or shifting from the hype to going into more depth, clarity, and real engineering work. And Abby's going to go into observability in more depth, but Intuit talked a lot about the need for good observability within platform engineering. They also talked about cost being top of mind, kind of the less is more. We heard quite a lot at the booth. Folks are saying my budgets are being cut, but I need to do more stuff. So how do you kind of balance that? And the Intuit folks did some great talks around infrastructure patterns within Kubernetes for AI and platform engineering in general. So Intuit were doing great work. I also heard a Comcast being name checked a whole bunch on stage. Great talk to check out there. They talked a lot about their internal developer platform. You imagine at Comcast scale, this is no trivial feat. They did a great talk, had some great chats to their folks afterwards. So if you want to know more about building a platform at Comcast scale, this is a talk I'd definitely recommend. There was a lot of notion, the third point, observability, operational tooling and reliability, elevated again by AI and the increasing complexity in the Kubernetes stack, dare I say it. We love Kubernetes, but it is getting increasingly complicated, complex. And I will tip the cap to Kat and Derek, who did a great talk about Kubernetes controller observability. Now, this is just one piece of the observability puzzle, but it clearly resonated with folks because Kat and Derek did the talk. Before they got back to the booth, a bunch of folks are coming up and saying, hey, where's Kat? Where's Derek? I want to chat about observability. It really resonated with folks. They were like, I'm struggling with controllers too. So this notion of observability, all up and down the stack, as Abby's going to talk about, but check out the talk from Kat and Derek, but this is really a key takeaway I grabbed from KubeCon. Bringing it all together as well, I've got to tip the cap again. I think Abby's keynote was just a fantastic kind of bringing the platform engineering community together and saying, you've got to learn from each other. And the CNCF is a great vehicle for doing that. And I think I took away, and obviously I'm lucky enough to chat to Abby every day, the thing I took away was the journey has just begun. When Chris Anachek asked, I think in the audience, how many of you are new to KubeCon, like half the hands went up. So there's constantly new folks coming into our space. People like myself and Abby and Kat have been in it for quite some time. I think we forget that sometimes, but the journey for platform engineering is really just beginning. There's much to learn, and there's also much to remember. I think folks do sometimes forget kind of classic software engineering principles, software architecture principles, and software delivery principles. So it's our job as perhaps folks who've been in the industry a bit longer to constantly remind people about these things. And something that's I think near and dear to all our hearts at Syntasso is treating things as products. So clearly you're offering a product, most likely, some kind of product, some kind of service to your end users, but even the internal tooling you're creating, the platform you're creating really should be created as a product. Think of it not just as a collection of tools, but serving some customer, typically your developers, your QA folks, your architects, all the good people, SREs, but creating a platform as a product is a key thing here. And I think that lands nicely. Kat, I know you want to go into a bit more depth on the platform as a product idea.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So this is something that we've heard a lot on the booth, particularly recently. It's something we've been shouting about for a long time at Syntasso, but really it's coming into its own now, and it's something we're hearing a lot about. And I think the excitement around our report really showed that. So if you were at KubeCon North America, you might have seen us handing this report around. You might even been lucky enough to get a signed copy by myself, Abby, and Daniel. You have to come to London to get Colin to sign it for you. So this report we wrote based on years of experience. Like the founders have been doing this for a long time. We've been doing this for a long time. And we wanted something that showed kind of the things that we've learned over time, where we've seen it gone wrong. And platform as a product is one of those key things. We have this definition in the book, and it's about viewing that platform as a product. It allows you to think a little bit more about the value that you're trying to deliver, particularly to your customers. So not just to the business, not just doing what someone's told you. And there's been a notable trend in the number of people coming to talk to us about product management techniques and things, and how that can translate into building a platform. So in the book, we talk about 4 pillars of platform value. And these are things that we've seen over time and things that you need to manage cohesively. So you can't just pick one and do that really, really well and expect a successful platform. You do have to balance all of these values. So you've got speed, which is about how quickly developers can get from an idea to running software. How fast can you move, and how can you enable those teams to move quickly? And that's really good until you consider that in organizations, they all have to think about compliance, governance, finance rules. Daniel mentioned it earlier, trying to do more with less. These are all things that need to be considered as part of the platform. It's not just helpful for everyone to move really fast, so you need to add safety in there. Once you've got people moving quickly and they're doing it well, how are you going to do that efficiently over time? It's no good if you've got a very, very expensive team or a really expensive platform running it. And the fourth one, which came up a lot more in our most recent KubeCon conversations in North America, which surprised me, but I'm really excited about, is scalability. So it's not just about one team being able to build an amazing platform. How can you grow that usage without having to just add piles and piles of more platform engineers to your team? You want your platform to be able to scale exponentially, not just linearly. So one hot trend that I heard a lot of around some of those value areas was, and if your platform engineers on the call, I want you to maybe answer these questions and think, does any of them apply to you? So are you that socio-technical bridge in your organization? Are you having to talk to a lot of people to try and figure out what they need and then turn that into something technical? Are you the kind of person who needs to understand everything about the operational functions in your business? We had a lot of people coming to talk to us about, how am I supposed to learn about all of the finance team's requirements? They don't understand technology. How do I manage all of the compliance team requests when I'm turning up to all of these different meetings to manage these teams in my organization? And the final one, which came up a few times and I thought was really interesting because I've never heard it before, was, are you a team that is offering services to other teams, that is offering services to other teams themselves and offering services to other teams themselves? It's all the way down, lots and lots of layers. It's getting really complicated. That matrix of who is providing services for who and what are they supposed to look like is getting more complex. And if any of these apply to you, you have a scalability problem. It means your platform has been wildly successful, which is kind of a new area. We were selling platforms before, and now it's like they're doing great. What do we do about it? Because we've got too much good work in our hands. Well, this is where you need a cool tool called multiplayer mode. It's something we've been talking about too much in Syntasso, but we're really passionate and excited about, and now everyone, I think, can see the value of it. And it's about scaling the contributions to your platform, not just your headcount. So a good example of this theory is like an Etsy platform. You know, Etsy, the tool, it's a marketplace. They allow people to contribute so that other people can consume those products. So I can make a really nice knitted jumper and Abby could buy it from me. Etsy isn't making that jumper. So those platform business tools are something that Paula and Daniel spoke about in a webinar that we did 6 months ago on switching your internal platform to multiplayer mode. So we were a little bit ahead of the trend here, but now I think people can watch this video, still relevant, might even be more relevant now than when we first did the call, which is super exciting. So this is one of the things we go into in our book. We've got a QR code here that you can scan and download it. It's one of the many topics we do. Another one that came up a lot at the booth that I haven't gone into here, and you'll have to download the report to find out about, is metrics. So we said 4 different types of value. A big thing in product management is, how do you measure the success of each of those things, and how do you move from one to the other? So have a look at the report, download it. You'll find out the cool metrics in there, and you'll find out how to go from different levels of platform maturity. We talk about that in detail. So these are the things that we were hearing in front of the booth. Abby's going to tell you about all the cool things that she heard behind the scenes, all the cool stuff going on in her.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, right, is that to have the headspace to do platform as a product, you have to have the technology and the ability and the frameworks and the ability to work in that space space. And I think that was one of the big things I noticed from my time in CFP review all the way back in kind of June-ish time, preparing for Atlanta, up through watching the talks in Atlanta and talking to people in the hallways. So one of the big trends that I noticed was exactly that need for multiplayer, because platforms are doing so many things. So this is a little bit of a word cloud. I use it sometimes just to quickly get a gut check on the complexity or the, what is popular in a space. And I ran it against the open source projects that were mentioned in talks in the platform engineering track. This is something I do to try and validate the track as we're building it out as co-chairs. And these are only the top, I think, 15, maybe 20 of them. But you can just see the spread. The platform engineering track, more than any other track, just covers a lot of stuff. You have pure operational things like Istio and Envoy and Cluster API in there. You have infrastructure things with Crossplane. You have app delivery things with Argo. You have user experience things with Backstage. You have policy things with Kyverno and OPA. You have observability things with OTel. Like, this is a lot to do. And so what we're finding is that we need to talk about how to get more people contributing to that platform, because a single platform engineer or engineering team can't manage it. And so we've got these talks that all came in completely independently of each other, but actually really play off each other, which starts to show that trend towards this. So the first talk here, which is by Anoop and Jerome, they talk about the challenges of platform engineering as, what are you going to do when you have a centralized team that has to own everything? And this was a huge conversation topic just around the hallways of feeling overwhelmed as a platform engineer. In the morning coffees, we were hearing that a lot. There was just so much to do and so little time to do it, and so much knowledge that was needed. And they proposed some ideas there with CNCF projects in order to solve it. But just calling it out even is really important. And then you've got a tool who's talking about how to create a contribution model in practice. So his model does still have sort of a centralized ownership of approvals and things, which in itself can still create a bit of a bottleneck. But there's a lot less effort to approvals than there is to creating something from scratch. So you're seeing, again, that pressure to say, how do we get other people involved? How do they apply their skills? And then, as Daniel mentioned, I also gave a talk on this topic where I'm proposing essentially that Etsy model for internal platforms. So how do you create a first-class experience for people who are contributing to the platform? And that will mean that they are able to contribute in a way that is approved by the organization, hopefully without that centralized manual approval that is in, some of the other suggestions. But sometimes you have to build to that. Starting with manual approval helps you identify how you can automate that approval and automate validation of things. So all of these are sort of coming together because platforms are big and they're getting stuck on building things that are maybe lower return on investment than they would like. And that sort of leads to the second trend, which is that platforms can only really be successful if they have the right fundamentals in place. So Daniel's been kind of harping on about this for a few years. So this is a slide from his Atlanta talk where platforms follow software architecture models, where you need kind of those three tiers that operate and offer you the kind of user interface experience or that user experience, the kind of central middle tier where it's all the complexity of your organization, and then all the things that are actually really common to the industry that really don't provide you that return on investment. And this is an idea that was introduced. I used the phrase an internal economy of scale, which led to a lot of really good conversations of what is that, where you're trying to do things that are unique to your organization, common to your teams, and making sure that they actually return value to you. And so when I was talking to engineers who didn't have a strong investment already in using infrastructure as code and policy as code tooling for creating infrastructure, they were finding their platform mostly operating at what I would say is commoditized level of work. So they were working on trying to just automate access to cloud resources or automate configuration of SaaS products. And they were feeling really frustrated because the idea of self-service and platform as a product felt out of reach. And that was particularly difficult because a lot of the tools they were looking to automate with were not giving them the ability to bring their existing kind of mess of a process into the platform. They were being forced to sort of rewrite everything they were doing. And so I think these are things that we're seeing as a trend where how can we take what we currently have, which is often a mix of Terraform and Ansible and CLI and Bash and operators and Helm and everything else, and actually start to leverage those and get to that meaty middle of the platform as fast as possible, the bits that actually return on investment for your organization. So the third part of that I was having a lot of conversations with, and I think everybody was having a lot of conversations on, was observability. This is probably one of the biggest trends over the last few years that has had the least sort of visibility because AI and platform engineering have come in and blasted away at the game board. But observability continues to be a hot topic because it is hard to support systems even when they're deterministic. We're having people challenged with how to know which databases are having a CVE, what needs to be upgraded and all that. Bring in AI, and all of a sudden you're like, what is going on? And all of a sudden you need to put in observability, which is harder to implement. It's more expensive to gather and to manage, but it's also more necessary than ever. And so, I mean, you just saw it with the pure number of vendors who are trying to solve this problem with the community. And you also saw it in the conversations we were having. The one thing I'd say that you can see, though, is that people aren't accepting dependencies they can't understand. So if they're getting woken up in the middle of the night and needing to respond to a page, the idea that they can't see why is not flying. And that's whether you're building the platform or you're building on top of the platform. Because at the end of the day, we're all building platforms on top of each other, right? We're depending on cloud providers and SaaS products to build the platform, and people are depending on us. So we need the work to be done. And so the use of open telemetry is clear at this point. If you are not yet looking at how to implement that into your stack and rely on that, you're going to be missing out on the ability to leverage a number of tools in the industry. So definitely a focus on what data to collect and how to organize that data is key to both cost and effectiveness issues. So the cost side of things is where open telemetry is really growing into itself now, and why I say if you're not looking in that direction, you may struggle to build things yourself, because they're looking at things like tail optimizations and making sure that you actually are capturing the data that matters most. Are you capturing every request or the important requests? And putting that in your hands is what they're doing. So yeah, so I think these were the conversations from the more implementation side of things while we were in Atlanta.
Super. Thank you, Abby, and thank you, Kat. So I'll just do a quick wrap up now, and then we can take some questions. So folks, if you've got questions, get thinking, chuck them in the box wherever you're watching, LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever. But just wrapping up, definitely saw the uptake of AI pushing forward the adoption and the evolution of platform engineering. That's kind of a little bit of a twist for a few of us. Like, I think we saw, AI taking some of the budgets, the mind share, but now it kind of coming full circle. And people were like, in order to deliver AI as a capability on the platform, we need a good platform. And really, AI is just another type of capability on the platform against data stores, against queues, against CI/CD systems, whatever you're offering as a capability on the platform. Really, it should be all delivered in the same way. But AI, with its massive mind share, is really pushing forward this, and the analysts are all over it, but we saw practical examples of that too. As Kat doubled down on, building platforms as a product is a good thing. Actually meeting the needs of your customers, so critical. I've made that mistake personally when I built platforms more as a collection of tools and were like, have at it to my engineers, and they pushed back quite rightly. So I'm really diving into now this platform as a product mindset, really, really important. And as Kat double down on again, at scale, the only way to do a platform is to embrace multiplayer mode. You have to make it easy for producers to produce and consumers to consume. And Kat's got a fantastic article on the new stack. We can share it later, but you can go searching for it, talking about this producer and consumer model. And we often talk about internal vendors. When you get to a certain scale, like Intuit, like Comcast, other folks, you need to be able to support your internal vendors, folks offering AI capabilities, database capabilities, even application capabilities. You really need to make it easy for them to contribute, to produce, and for others to consume. As Abby said, I doubled down on this one as well. I saw a lot of chats, or had a lot of chats at the booth around observability. And like, I've got sort of a Java background. I was chatting a lot about Java apps and Spring and OTel. Then we were also going down a layer into the platform and then going down a layer into the infrastructure again. Observing all the things requires a kind of common strategy, but different tactics at the various levels. But I'm very much bullish on Hotel, as Abby said as well. Do we mention we have created an O'Reilly report? All this good stuff. If you like what you've seen, we have captured it, bottled it if you like. It's a very small report. It's only like 50 pages. So it's a weekend read, a day read or whatever. It's not going to require lots of investment of your time. But we believe it's got a really high, really high goodness factor in it. So it's our holiday gift to you. Scan the QR code, pop along to the website, download the report, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Again, jump on our Slack, hit us up on LinkedIn, wherever you can find us. All three of us are very visible in the community. We'd love to know your feedback because we're creating this as sort of all of our experiences, not just us. It was with Colin, with the rest of the Syntasso team, and we tried to bottle this stuff. But we'd love your feedback to see, is there things you want to know more of? Is there things you perhaps don't agree with? We'd love to hear why. But whatever feedback you've got, that's your gift to us. Would be feedback on the report. So get scanning, get downloading, and get giving us feedback. On that note, shall I have a look at the questions? Excuse me, looking off camera, folks. I will just be looking across to our questions. If anyone else wants to share out one, I've definitely got. I saw one up here somewhere. Yeah, this one. So, what surprised you most in the conversations you had at the booth? I take out this one. For me, it very much shifted. I think previous like KubeCon, say we did Salt Lake City last year and other places, there was a lot of like, what is the platform? Why do I need a platform? And that shifted at this KubeCon in particular. Even at Plat Eng Day, folks were asking us like, day 2 issues, like I've built a platform, I've got some buy-in, but we're having trouble upgrading. I had a whole lot of questions around that, the day 2 experience. So I think the market is shifting. People are recognizing they need a platform. Backstage has done great work in the portal space. A lot of folks in the orchestration space where we're sort of playing in with Ski and Kratix. But now they're like, how do I manage the day 2? Things are out there in the wild. How do I upgrade? How do I sort of get folks contributing to the platform? These type of things. So I think that was something that sort of surprised me was the pace of the evolution of conversations, moving away from what is a platform to how do I build the next level of support into the platform. I don't know, Kat, Abby, if you've got any additional thoughts on that one?
So I noticed that it wasn't maybe at the booth, but like when I was talking to other people around and about, there was a lot less surprise at a product manager being at KubeCon, which I thought was interesting. So I think we're seeing a much broader set of roles appear at events like that, which I think is really good. It's no longer sort of to attend, you have to be this high and know this much Kubernetes and know this much engineering lingo. I think it's becoming a lot more approachable for people, which I think is really good because with AI and all of those other technologies that are coming online, I think every role needs to have some understanding about what a platform is, or the technology in this space, and the impacts of some of this new modern technology.
Plus one, Cap. Plus one. I've got another question as well. Okay, forever. Yep.
I guess it's surprising and not surprising. As someone who is keeping an eye out on the entire event as a whole, as well as other things, is that to your point earlier, Daniel, of that it's just beginning, that there's a lot of new faces and there's a lot of new challenges, is that just the amount of data and experience and case studies that are out there that are not yet fully consumed by people. And so they're facing the same challenges and not sure where to look. So I'm super excited about what's been going on with the technical community group and trying to bring people together, because I think that there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of success stories out there and a lot of failure stories that people can learn from. And I think, but unearthing them is what's hard, figuring out which ones to put time and energy into finding and learning about and reaching. So, so I think people's surprise that it's been done before is both surprising and unsurprising. And I trying to get involved in the community and just put an ear to the ground through the technical community group, I think is a great way of trying to learn from others as well.
Love it. I mean, yeah, definitely take that from your keynote. Get involved. Like there's lots of great folks like yourself, like all of us, right? We try to share our knowledge. So if you're looking for pointers for where to get started, hit us up. We'll definitely point you in the right direction. If you want to get more involved, like Abby said, we can point you in the right direction there as well. So yeah, well said, both of you. I'll move on. So Emily asked, following your point, Kat, what does adopting a product mindset actually change from a platform team or for a platform team?
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a cool question. And it's something that feels very simple when I say it. So I did a talk with a lovely guy called Stefan, works at a bank. He went from engineering into a bit more product-focused role. And really, it just feels like you go and talk to your users, you understand what they need, and that gets you quite a long way on that journey to adopting that product mindset, understanding what things are painful for them and what things add value to their lives. So that's one thing that happens. And it also, the other side of it is becoming a bit more metrics focused. So that's another one that tends to get a lot of attention, and that gives you the benefit of being able to present the value that you're delivering upwards. So it could be something as simple as adoption of your platform. You start measuring that. You can talk to other people in the organization about how successful your platform's been, because lots of people are getting value out of it. Because why would they use it if they weren't getting value out of it? So they're kind of two things that I would say is more engagement with user communities, understanding them better, and measurability and metrics.
Fantastic. Abby, do you want to add anything on that?
No, I think Kat does a great job of describing all of that. No, that's great.
Yeah, plus one. Definitely in my career, I did have this like light bulb moment where I started talking to customers, to the end users. When I was doing platform rescues, I'd go in and people were like, "Oh, we've built this amazing platform. Why is it not being adopted?" And I was like, "Have you actually talked to developers?" And they were like, "Why would I talk to developers? We're building an internal AWS, internal Azure, internal GCP." And I'm like, "Do you really want to build that?" So I think actually chatting to users, I'll double down on what you're saying, Kat. Like that was 10 years ago, I guess, for me, epiphany moment where I was like, of course we talk to our users when I'm building normal software. Why would we not talk to our users when I'm building platform software? But easy to say, hard to do it sometimes. So
there's also like something on the back of it that I like. You didn't ask, but something that comes up all the time when you get into product management is you read the books. There's so much content out there produced by really intelligent people. But like that is, we've already done all the basics. We've done the intermediate steps. We've done the advanced steps. And now we're really looking to squeeze everything out of it. You don't need to do all of those at once. You're going to see really good results adopting a product mindset just by doing some really foundational basic stuff. So it's not like you need 6 years of product management training before you can start doing any of this. Just talk to people, talk to your users, figure out what your value should be and whether you're moving towards that. Get started there. And then when you get stuck, try and find relevant content to help you rather than reading 6 300-page books to try and figure out what's going on.
Love it, that's great advice. Avi, that's definitely a question for you here from Jim. What is the single biggest engineering challenge you heard repeatedly at KubeCon?
Oh, I mean, I think I talked about the fact that it's all of them at once, but I think that the underlying trend was, what do we do about the fact that we now have a platform? We have a whole bunch of tech. We have a whole bunch of people using the platform. Now what? So I think we kind of classify that as day 2 stories. So things like extending the platform, updating things that exist on the platform, managing things that have sprawled or drifted from the platform. And I think what's great is that point about the fact that there's actually a lot of stories already in the wild about this comes into play here, because GitOps as a mentality of declare and converge and keep that declaration correct and keep the converging consistently. I mean, that's what the framework that Kubernetes is built on, is something that is said a lot to people, but I will say that most people are challenged with actually making that happen. So figuring out how to bring in that automated remediation, or at least drift detection, is something that I think a lot of people are talking about, as well as bringing in a move. It's quite unfortunate, actually, because there's been this huge push towards templates in the last couple of years. So things like creating things off the back of a backstage creation flow, where you're creating things that are correct when they're created, but then are sort of gone. They've left the vending machine. you can't get them back. And so I think there's a lot of conversations now about how do we take things that were templated, bring them back under sort of management of the centralized platform, and how do we stop that from getting worse? And so I think those are the big conversations, is what happens now that I have a whole bunch of these things to manage. So day 2.
Yeah, plus one. I mean, I'll just chuck on something like, so I was lucky enough to go to KubeCon, another conference in San Francisco, right after KubeCon. And Chris Richardson, sort of very famous in the Java space, real deep thinker in this space, has talked about patterns for platforms. And he's sort of embracing team topologies, which we all know and love here. Abby's actually an advocate for them, as is Paula. But he called this, I think what you're talking about, Abby, he called it like a service chassis. He was like trying to say that like the chassis can be upgraded over time, and it's not just a one-shot deal kind of template, in that like you have very thin layer around the chassis, which is kind of almost like your SDK onto the platform. And I think many folks are sort of talking about the same challenges. You cannot just give out templates, because like over time, you'll have different versions of the templates. How do you manage that upgrade of the kind of core engine, if you like, the core sort of service chassis that Chris was talking about? So if folks are interested, I can share Chris's slide deck, because it also made me think a lot about the data experience. And just one pattern that Chris came up with sort of made me think about, oh, how do I create this kind of service chassis, that kind of thing as well. So
I love the use of chassis, because it's obviously connected to cars, and so there's so much work from Gregor Hope in the car space, in this space as well. And then there's also, this is the analogy I used to try and describe this, I don't know, 6 months ago or something, in a blog about over-the-air updates for a car. So as an electric car owner myself, I love not having to go in to get my car, updated. I can just get it from my home internet, right? And I think that's the difference between a vending machine, where the thing is gone. Good luck. You might put something in the newspaper if there's a recall on the food, but you're not capturing everybody. And then versus something that actually phones home or is accessible to push notifications and so forth. So yeah, I love that we're all sort of centralizing around those analogies that fit.
Love it, love it. I know we're conscious of time here, folks. We'll wrap up like in just a few minutes. I did want to end on just something I was keen to ask as well. Like, as again, we've got the holiday spirit going on here with our hats, right? They're quite warm. I don't know if you're feeling happy and Kat, but my head is getting quite warm here. We've got the holiday spirit going on, and we, traditionally you retrospect on the year that's gone, and you look forward to the coming year as well. So I'll ask, as in, what are you most excited about in the Kubernetes, in the CNCF ecosystem for 2026? And Abby, do you want to start?
KubeCon Amsterdam, of course. It'll be a great lineup. I think it's just been announced yesterday, or just gotten emails. No one should be sharing yet if they were accepted. Please don't pressure. No, I think the interesting part is that as a part of being a co-chair, one of the things is thinking about the themes for the event, both from looking at what's being suggested and kind of teasing out the themes from that, as well as looking at the future from the perspective of talking to end users in the community and everything else. And we were lucky enough to have some time with Jonathan, the CEO of CNCF, recently, and just listening to him talk about the vision for what the next 10 years with the CNCF looks like is really exciting and empowering. And for this specific webinar, to call out that platform engineering is still in his top 3 of things that are going to make the difference for organizations and for cloud native use cases and transformations and power is what Daniel was saying about AI. Yes, AI is getting a lot of the headlines, but you can't do it without platform engineering in place. And so I just love that there's investment there from the technical community group, from all the way up to the CEO level, the CTO level. I've had these conversations with Chris as well. Yeah, it's there, and the community is the right home for this, because it's truly cross-vendor, cross-tool, cross-technology based. So very exciting about that.
Love it. Kat, what are you thinking?
So mine maybe not be like on brand as an answer, but it is something that I've seen change. So last year, it was pretty much every person you spoke to was looking at the same 3 pieces of tech for their platforms and in the ecosystem. It was very, very samey. Everyone was using Terraform, everyone was using Backstage, and nothing against those techs. They're still amazing, but I'm really excited for the variety of tools that we're seeing people use now. It's not trying to get Backstage to do absolutely everything, because oftentimes it's things that it's not built for. And I was seeing people trying to get everything into one set tool, but now we're seeing there's a lot more tools that do a really, really good job at the thing that they were built to do. And I'm seeing a lot more people embrace the fact that you will need a much more varied, almost a varied diet of CNCF technology to build your platforms and to serve your end users. So I can't wait to see what people are using over the next 12 months. And I think it means we're going to get a lot more high quality focused tools rather than people trying to scattergun and do a lot of different things. And I also think it means it is exciting because you're going to need tools that can bring that all together and manage all of those things as one cohesive things for users and consumers and producers. So that's very exciting for me to hear about all these new techs that people are using and the things they're using them for.
Yeah, love it. Actually, my answer kind of dovetails on the back of that, in that I'm really keen to see more and more case studies, more and more folks saying, hey, I built the thing this way, it went wrong, it went right. And I think all three of us here are involved in various different conferences. So if you want to, pick our brains, reach out to us. We love connecting you with folks like, obviously, Abby with CNCF, with KubeCon. I've helped out at KubeCon and InfoQ. And Kat, I know you've done lots of dev summits with InfoQ and webinars and various things. We know sort of we can connect you to interesting people, because I'm really keen. Often the most interesting stories, people are not sure if they've got the time, if they've got the skills, if they've got the connections to actually get that story out. And I've learned so much from other people over the years, particularly practical case studies. So I'm personally on a mission to find out interesting case studies next year. So if you want to, hit me up with these things, because I just think with AI pushing forward the platform engineering community, and just the community itself, like to Abby's point, like really standing up and really sharing knowledge as well, I really want to focus on the practical implementations, the good and the bad. Ideally, the bad you often learn even more from. So that's what I'm excited about next year. I think, was the Gartner trough of, you go into the trough of disillusionment. I think we're coming out of that now with platform engineering onto the plateau of enlightenment, I think it's called. So I'd love to have stories where you kind of share your dip into the disillusionment, but also your rise out from that as well. So that's what I'm kind of most looking forward to. I think on that note, I don't see any more questions. I think that's a nice point to wrap it up. We had some positive things to think about at the end there. I think it's just up for me now to say happy holidays from all of us at Syntasso to yourselves. Hopefully you'll see us on the road next year at KubeCon, various other places as well. Reach out to us. You can find us on the website, find us on LinkedIn. We love to chat, all of us here at Syntasso. But I think, join Abby and join Kat and just saying happy holidays to you all. See you soon.
Happy holidays, y'all. See you soon. See you next year.
Have a lovely December and see you all in the new year.